Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is the 14th day of December and a Wednesday, Woman Crush Wednesday. Well, we want to say good morning and a very warm welcome to Good Morning Uganda. And obviously, we're also starting off with quite a cold morning, a lot of rains around the city and those areas across Lake Victoria. You can expect that it's going to be quite cold as the rains are still continuous. Some of those annoying rains in the morning that don't really stop, but they are still there. And that is one you can look out for if you're headed into town. But we are still going to be taking you through what is happening across the country. And of course, we do have some sad news as well. We did see an accident in Tororo where there was a fuel car accident and one person died in Tororo. Police is still investigating. But also on a sad note, we did see Parliament yesterday also pay tribute to the Supreme Court Justice that is the late Aweri Ruby, and a lot of good things that were said about him. We did see members of the judiciary also coming out to applaud his work, that he has left a legacy, and of course one that most of the judicial officers will have to take on to make sure that what he started does not go in vain, but rather they progress with that kind of judiciary activities. And of course, I do have Felix with me in the house, and I don't know, probably he's kind of sad as well. I don't know whether he was rooting for Argentina or Croatia, but ladies and gentlemen, we have a finalist in the World Cup. Argentina did go through against all odds, against all, you know, the negative, the negativity coming from the other side, saying that, you know, that penalty was not called for. How can they have 4 penalties so far? And, well, in the World Cup, I think they have the biggest number of being awarded penalties. I mean, fouls are fouls. But I would want to take Felix's idea on this. I don't know whether he's happy. Good morning, Felix.
Good morning. How are you, Mollen?
I'm all right.
How was your night?
My night was okay.
And your morning?
Yeah, it's also fine.
You were talking about the showers, the early showers. But tell you what, this shower started about at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And clearly, probably it was a celebration of Argentina's win. Many people would have to think so. But I don't know why you're wondering what I was supposing. Yesterday when you asked me here and I told you I was for Argentina, I don't know when that changed in your mind.
Well, I thought you probably would be rooting for Croatia, seeing as you probably want another team on the other side, Morocco or France to win.
What do you mean the other side? I mean, I only had one option, which was clearly Argentina, and I'm happy the guys played well. The match was good, and definitely the opponents were equally good. Croatia gave us also a good response towards the Argentine players.
Yeah.
You notice that it's not been an easy one, and I've had people bring into play that talk about penalties and all this, but then you wonder, penalties are a part of the game. And tell you what, professional players are even trained on how to get penalties.
Yeah.
That's why there are people who are particular. When you see that when they enter the box, what you call the 18 box, you don't touch them. The likes of Neymar, the likes of Ronaldo, the likes of Messi.
Messi as well.
Those professional, the Alves, even I think Di Maria was one of them, the Ruud van Nistelrooy, those days. Even if you just touch, they're trained because it is a way of winning. As long as it gives you puts you ahead of your opponent. So whoever is complaining, they should, because there were many ways to check whether it was a penalty.
There was no VAR. There was no VAR in this particular game.
They should have checked for it.
And I think this is why Croatia was coming out to say, no, why is it that there was no VAR? That penalty that was awarded in the first place is what made them
They should have
lose
demanded.
the game.
They have a right to demand. but Croatia did lose by 1 goal.
Yeah, of course.
So when they say it was because of the penalty, it is equally laughable. But nevertheless, that was done and dusted. Clearly, Argentina have taken their place back in world soccer. It's been a long time coming. This is the best way to say goodbye to Messi in terms of world platforms for soccer. This is the best way for him to retire.
He did actually. He's equaling up to Diego Maradona
Absolutely.
in terms of assists, World Cup assists, and I know Ruben will be talking more about that. But that is a huge record that Messi has gotten himself to,
but for Messi, it is not a huge
Maradona.
one. Messi has done these things.
But we do know that Argentina has had, Maradona as, the layout. I mean, that's what you have to beat for you to get into the record.
And he still stays.
Yeah.
Trust me, the things Maradona did, we have not yet seen from Argentina. But Messi has done his best. He has captained the team from a position that everyone didn't ever see coming, from challenges of coaching, from challenges of segregation, all those kind of things. So it is what it is. They are now there awaiting who will give us a good play, and we see. But again, if you want to ask me who I'm vouching for, I'll tell you I'm for France. It's as simple as that.
See, that's what I thought. That's why I thought you would be rooting for Croatia. So when France goes through the other side, they can easily beat Croatia. So.
They can easily beat.
But Croatia is not even another simple team.
We did see them Argentina win
in 2018. We did see, them coming out even to these levels. This is not a team to just underlook, and I guess even if it was Croatia going through, France would still be scared. Not forgetting that Morocco is still in the play. We cannot
and Morocco
just automatically assume.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they have proved us all wrong. Majorly about there's something they do in sports they call consistency. That even when they are not winning, they still play with sort of like that kind of composure. So I think we're gonna have. There's no team that didn't deserve to be where they are. All the teams that are playing in this particular round deserved, and all the teams that will go to the finals definitely equally deserved. But also yesterday, if you do remember, we had a breaking story about the ADF rebels in Toroko. There was quite a bit of mayhem there, but we also got news that the UPDF got on top of the situation and was able to do what they did, capture about 13 ADFs and of course a couple of rifles there. I think they will be coming out with a press that will be telling us the details of this. So
far we do know 15 people died from that shootout.
Yeah, at least. So and sadly there are lots of people who are being displaced. That's for me the saddest bit of it all, that there are families who are running from the rural areas into townships of the likes of Fort Porto and many others. So we want to send our prayers to the people of the Toroko area, and we know that all will be well. We are praying for you. We are with you in spirit. We believe and trust that the government is equally with you, and the UPDF's response also gives us hope that they will be on top of this particular scenario and incident. It is sad that in times like this we still suffer such challenges of insurgencies and rebel groups of this. But we pray for our country. We don't tire to pray that the forthcoming birth of our Lord Jesus Christ does give life, hope, and definitely grace to such situations that we don't see them again. Uganda has been a peaceful country for quite a time. We don't want to trade this for any reason. And
we pride ourselves on the security.
The aspect of peace.
Yeah, we have been on top of that.
It's one of our biggest tools of trade.
Yeah.
Because a few days ago, the CDF was also flagging off our comrades in uniform to Somalia to keep peace. So clearly we should be able to have that. Yeah. We can't be the givers yet we don't have. So, but we know that everything we have been told not to panic by the Uganda People's Defense Forces. They are in charge. They have told us, and we also tell you, our dear viewers, whoever is in those areas, please stay calm. Just know that we are praying for you, and we are equally vouching and believing that the UPDF and the Uganda government is on top of this.
Well, absolutely, and we do know that government has had a lot of efforts towards the security situation across Uganda, but also we're looking at the East Africa as a community. We do know that they have also had talks about a joint security force, and that is one that could help even crossing over to the borders onto the Rwanda and DRC. That is something that we are still, hopeful for, and we do know that the situation will be quite calm in terms of keeping the security situation at least at peace. We want everyone to be safe, And we are lucky that the men in uniform, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and of course the Uganda Police Forces are also on ground to emphasize and ensure that at least there is safety. Well, a lot going on across the country as well when it comes to the top stories throughout last night and into the morning. We want to take you through some of those, starting with the local stories. We'll also be getting you to the international scene. Felix.
Of course, in our first story, we'll be looking at the State Minister for Tourism, that is Mugara, has urged Ugandans to access information about tourism and markets Uganda to the rest of the world. Now, he was commissioning the Kampala Tourism Information Center by Uganda Wildlife Authority in partnership with KCCA here in Kampala at Sheraton Hotel. The first ever tourism information center where tourists will get information and guidance on tourism places in Uganda has been commissioned in Kampala. Now, in other news, Uganda People's Defense Forces, the UPDF, killed 16 suspected Allied Democratic Forces rebels in Toroko district. Deputy spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Deo Hakiki, says the suspected rebels, numbering 20 to 30 in number, and were crossing from Democratic Republic of Congo to Uganda's Toroko district with a motive of causing havoc to civilians. He adds the operations to wipe out the rebels and resettle the displaced civilians are underway. Now, speeding fuel tanker did burn to cedars after ramming into a wall fence of a World Food Program store in Toro district. The tanker was loaded with diesel heading to Kampala from Kenya. Now, the Kampala-bound fuel tanker did yesterday morning burn to ashes after ramming into World Food Program next to UCC Toro along Malaba Jinja Road. By the time police fire brigade reached the scene, the fuel tank had been burnt down, and the conductor of the tanker perished in the accident allegedly while trying to put off the fire. And lastly, in local stories, the First Lady and Minister of Education, Sports, Mrs. Janet Museveni, has met a team from the World Bank who were on a closing mission to review the implementation progress of the Uganda Skills Development Project and the Albertine Region Sustainable Development Project. The two projects being implemented by the Ministry of Education and Sports are coming to a closure at the end of this year.
Onto the international scene, where New Zealand will phase in a near total tobacco ban from next year. Legislation passed by Parliament on Tuesday means that anyone born after 2008 will never be able to buy cigarettes or tobacco products. It will mean that the number of people able to buy tobacco will shrink each year. By 2030, for example, 40-year-olds will be too young to buy cigarettes. Health Minister Ayesh Varel, who introduced the bill, said it was a step towards a smoke-free future. Thousands of people will live longer, healthier, and also the health system will be to $5 billion better off from not needing to treat the illness caused by smoking. Dr. Varel also added New Zealand's smoking rate is already at historical lows, with just 8% of adults smoking daily, according to the government statistics released in November, down from 9.4% last year. In another story, Elon Musk is no longer the world's richest man after a sharp drop in the value of his shares in the electric car company Tesla this year. According to both Forbes and Bloomberg, Mr. Musk has been overtaken at the top spot by Bernard Arnault, the chief executive of luxury goods groups, and that is LVMH. Mr. Musk is the chief executive and the largest shareholder in Tesla, with a reported stake of about 14%. He completed a $44 billion takeover of social media Twitter in October. Now, according to Forbes, Mr. Musk is now worth about $178 billion. Meanwhile, Bernard Arnault has a value of $188 billion. Mr. Musk's Twitter deal was only completed after months of legal wrangling, and some have cited the distraction of the takeover as one of the factors behind Tesla share price fall. And back in Africa, MPs at a special sitting of South Africa's parliament voted to reject a move to begin impeachment proceedings against President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, the president was accused of covering up the theft of a large sum of foreign currency from his firm in 2020, some of which had been hidden in a sofa. The debate before the vote focused on an independent report which concluded that he may have violated the constitution. Mr. Ramaphosa, who is up for re-election as ANC leader, denies any wrongdoing, and the African National Congress had told its MPs to block a possible impeachment, although a handful broke ranks and sided with opposition parties and voted to accept the report and let impeachment proceedings start. And in climate news, climate change made conditions in the Arctic wetter and stormier in 2022, according to a report released on Tuesday by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. Now, the NOAA report determined the past year as having been the region's 60th warmest year on record, and the Greenland Iceland lost ice from the 25th consecutive year. Annual air temperatures in the Arctic between October 2021 and September 2022 were the 60th warmest dating back to 1900. Overall, surface air temperatures were about 0.73 degrees Celsius warmer than the average from 1991 to 2020. All the 10 years recorded for the Arctic were later than 2011. The trend applied on land as well. According to the federal agency, land temperatures were also 1.31 degrees warmer than the industrial level average. Well, we take you through most of that, but also seeing as, the planet is getting warmer, and that is not good news. At least for me, and I know there are a lot of scientists that share the same sentiment. That could mean a lot of implications. Well, this morning we're joined by Robert, and he looks like, I don't know, he's not happy, but kind of moody. Robert, you'll have to tell us about that. And of course, want to make sure that you get into the happier mood. It's a Women Crush Wednesday. Probably you might be crushing on someone. That might make a difference. Good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Mollen, Elder Felix, and of course our viewers who have woken up with us. Thank you so very much for starting your day with us. Well, it's a very cold morning. It's rained. Some roads are next to impassable. And of course, people are not yet hitting the road. Like, when it's not a rainy day, people usually begin their days a bit very early. When it's raining, they have to wait, I think, for the rain to stop. Then that's when you have jam. So if you want to reach earlier, then you don't have to wait for it to entirely stop, because then everybody will be now hitting that road, and hence you have so much jam. But otherwise, I'm okay. Just the ADF story is something that I felt like, the government is doing all it takes. Operation Suja since November last year, they are there, but that's something we are going to dive in later on. But also, the World Cup didn't treat me that very well.
Yeah, that explains the sad face.
Well, because I have my calculations, and when I looked at how Argentina played, I must say my team, now I crossed over to Morocco. So I wanted at least a fairly weak team to qualify, so that Morocco finds something easy, but that's if at all they are able to qualify. Because, when you support a team, I'm very hopeful now that Morocco will win, because if it doesn't, I don't know my mood tomorrow. I don't know my mood tomorrow. Yeah. But I wanted at least Croatia, because it looked a bit weaker. So in case it were, maybe it was coming to Africa, but the skills I saw with Argentina, with that Messi guy, like goal number 2. The guy even dodges. He has the strength, he has the speed. He's a problem on the pitch.
He's a magician. They call him.
That wasn't content with a penalty as well. But anyway, I had Felix penalties are part of soccer, so I'll take it that way. But I felt now, I felt maybe the referee knew that Argentina have stars and all that.
Well, you also still have today to actually find out how Morocco and France will be doing. But I'll tell you one thing, even if Croatia has gone through, it's also not one to look at as a weak team. I'm telling you, France or Morocco would have to also prove beyond reasonable doubt that they're actually the champions. And I think that is what the finals are all about. We'll be getting more details when it comes to the sports highlights. And Ruben, I know, has a lot to uncover when it comes to today's game. And obviously that game will be showing on UBC. But also, Robert, we have a gospel about people's health. And every morning we want to remind everyone to, get that in order.
Oh, I will never get tired, because I know one of the hindrances to prosperity is poor health. When you're not feeling fine, you can't work. When you're not feeling fine, you're less productive. So also continuation of taking drugs, continuity. Some people have pharmacies in their homes, Every time, take Panadol, take this, take that, take paracetamol, this, that. So you're prescribing for yourself over illnesses that can easily be avoided. So when you take Hallelujah Jinga tea, Hallelujah turmeric drink, Hallelujah banana fruit juice drink. Now what these do is they boost your immune system. So when your immune system is okay, it's able to fight off a number of diseases. Therefore, you never fall sick. And that means you're very productive, but also you're saving so much. These days, treatment is very expensive. You go to a doctor, they tell you then consultation fee 50,000. Then also the medicine is also expensive, or the drugs. So save your monies, live a productive life, enjoy your life, ensure you're not sick, and enjoy the festive season very well. You can start today in case you've not been consuming any of these drinks. It's just 1,500. Any of the 3 flavors that is of your choice. So any supermarket, any retail shop, these products are there, and they are manufactured by Hallelujah Reflexology. So go get yourself a bottle.
Absolutely. And of course, this morning, right after this, we'll be taking you through newsreel, and where we want to have a discussion. We're seeing more attacks of the ADF. What does this mean? How is our security situation? And of course, the communities, especially in the hotspots, what it would be the ideal thing to do, and make sure that everyone remains calm. Now, we welcome you to be part of the discussion. You can always text us on our phone number, but also on our socials. That is the hashtag UBCGMU. Now, we'll be going in for the inspirational song of the day. And being a Woman Crush Wednesday, of course, one of the phenomenal ladies in the music industry, talking about Mary J. Blige, will be giving us more of that. And of course, making sure that we can uplift your morning, and so that the cold weather doesn't seem very cold. We'll be back after this song of the day.
Argentina played. I must say, my team, now I crossed over to Morocco, so I wanted at least a fairly weak team to qualify, so that Morocco finds something easy. But that's, if at all they are able to qualify, because when you support a team, I'm very hopeful now that Morocco will win, because if it doesn't, I don't know my mood tomorrow. I don't know my mood tomorrow. Yeah. But I wanted at least Croatia, because it looked a bit weaker. So in case it were, maybe it was coming to Africa, but the skills I saw with Argentina, with that Messi guy, like goal number 2. The guy even dodges. He has the strength, he has the speed. He's a problem on the pitch.
He's a magician. They call him.
That wasn't content with a penalty as well. But anyway, I had Felix, penalties are part of soccer, so I'll take it that way. But I felt now, I felt maybe the referee knew that Argentina have stars and all that.
Well, you also still have today to actually find out how Morocco and France will be doing. But I'll tell you one thing, even if Croatia has gone through, it's also not one to look at as a weak team. I'm telling you, France or Morocco would have to also prove beyond reasonable doubt that they're actually the champions. And I think that is what the finals are all about. We'll be getting more details when it comes to the sports highlights. And Ruben, I know, has a lot to uncover when it comes to today's game. And obviously that game will be showing on UBC. But also, Robert, we have a gospel about people's health. And every morning we want to remind everyone to, get that in order.
Oh, I will never get tired, because I know one of the hindrances to prosperity is poor health. When you're not feeling fine, you can't work. When you're not feeling fine, you're less productive. So also continuation of taking drugs, continuity. Some people have pharmacies in their homes, you know. Every time, take Panadol, take this, take that, take paracetamol, this, that. So you're prescribing for yourself over illnesses that can easily be avoided. So when you take Hallelujah Jinga tea, Hallelujah turmeric drink, Hallelujah banana fruit juice drink. Now what these do is they boost your immune system. So when your immune system is okay, it's able to fight off a number of diseases. Therefore, you never fall sick. And that means you're very productive, but also you're saving so much. These days, treatment is very expensive. You go to a doctor, they tell you then consultation fee 50,000. Then now Kenyena played. I must say, my team, now I crossed over to Morocco. So I wanted at least a fairly weak team to qualify, so that Morocco finds something easy. But that's, if at all they are able to qualify. Because, you know, when you support a team, I'm very hopeful now that Morocco will win. Because if it doesn't, I don't know my mood tomorrow. I don't know my mood tomorrow. Yeah. But I wanted at least Wesha, because it looked a bit weaker. So in case it were, maybe it was coming to Africa. But the skills I saw with Argentina, with that Messi guy, like goal number 2. The guy even dodges. He has the strength, he has the speed. He's a problem on the pitch.
He's a magician. They call him.
That wasn't content with a penalty as well. But anyway, I had Felix. Penalties are part of soccer, so I'll take it that way. But I felt now, I felt maybe the referee knew that Argentina have the stars and all that.
Well, you also still have today to actually find out how Morocco and France will be doing. But I'll tell you one thing, even if Croatia has gone through, it's also not one to look at as a weak team. I'm telling you, France or Morocco would have to also prove beyond reasonable doubt that they're actually the champions. And I think that is what the finals are all about. We'll be getting more details when it comes to the sports highlights. And Ruben, I know, has a lot to uncover when it comes to today's game. And obviously that game will be showing on UBC. But also, Robert, we have a gospel about people's health. And every morning we want to remind everyone to, you know, get that in order.
Oh, I will never get tired, because I know one of the hindrances to prosperity is poor health. When you're not feeling fine, you can't work. When you're not feeling fine, you're less productive. So also continuation of taking drugs, continuity. Some people have pharmacies in their homes, you know. Every time, take Panadol, take this, take that, take paracetamol, this, that. So you prescribe.
I mean, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still do this roundabout.
Was brought to you by.
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Hallelujah Jinga tea drink and Hallelujah tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is Good Morning Uganda newsreel, and of course we want to talk more into the discussion looking at the security situation in this country. And of course, on a sad note, we do know that there is a lot going on with ADF, but also the good part is that the Uganda Police Force and the Uganda Defense Force is also on ground to ensure that people are safe over there. But also another concerning issue when it comes to security, but also within our communities, we're talking about abductions. And this seems to be rampant and on a rising case again, because we've seen abductions in Uganda before. But recently, we also learned that the speaker of Amolata district has been arrested alongside his two brothers for suspicion of being behind the kidnap and murder of a man who was thought to have had an affair with his wife. And of course, these three have been arrested and already in police custody, according to the police spokesperson. We also know that there was another abduction case that involved children as well, just a few days ago. And this is now coming to everyone's attention. Could we be looking at another syndicate and series of abductions? And especially now that we're talking about a festive season, people are moving towards villages or up country or wherever people are taking holidays from, and this could be a really, really big issue if you do not account for whereabouts of people. And this morning we want to dive into that and look at how far the situation has gone. And I want to bring in Felix right here. We're looking at these abductions. What is the extent? What are we looking at? Especially right now that police is also coming out to say they have apprehended some of the, the suspects.
Well, Mollen, abductions have been a continuous venture in this country, and it's been quite around for some time. But when you ask particularly why now, you may have to get or launch yourself in the depth of what the relationships are or what the interests are of the people who carry out this. Many a times, unlike the few incidents we saw, many a times, the purpose of abductions are motivated by financial issues. And if you're keen to make research, you notice that out of at least 10 abductions, you find that probably 7 or 8 are about money until they go wrong. You get it. Sometimes it depends on the response of the people who are being contacted and how the information is carried forth and back. So if you ask me straight one, most recent ones have been related to money, like the one you did talk about of the gentleman who was kidnapping children. I think so far he was attributed to 2 kidnaps. The first one was successful. I think he got about 2 million. The second one is when they were able to get him, and I had already given him some money. But all of them, they were about money. Now, when you try to read between lines, how does abduction become a solution for such society challenges like poverty, like affection, like the case you gave for the speaker of, is it Amolata?
Amolata.
The gentleman and his brothers who took it upon themselves to abduct the gentleman who allegedly was having intimate relationship with the wife of the speaker. But the big question for me is how has that become a solution to answering all these other challenges? You get it? How has it become a solution? When did we get to that point? Why is it so easy for these abductions to happen? For example, in this particular case, the story, it is said that the gentleman was picked from old Kampala around the mosque, put into a car, drove to wherever they drove him, being beaten by, I think the Afande Nanga said, a wood spander and those metals. And later on, they were able even to bury him somewhere in one of the national game parks somewhere. How are these criminalities possible? Because it is a series. It doesn't happen in one fold. It means there's a gap somewhere for all of us. There's a gap somewhere. In as much as we are able to uncover all these things at the aftermath, but there's a gap. When you leave this, if you want to look at case per case, in this particular one, which you read, there's a woman, there's someone they're having a relationship with, and the husband is having an issue with that. Where would you put the problem? Who takes responsibility for all this? One would say the gentleman who abducted. Then the other person will say, but come on, be serious. Who started all this? Then the other person will say it is the woman. But also someone else will say about the deceased, why did he go for a married?
Yeah. But still, that would be a form of, I think, mob justice. If
these are things we talk about.
That, he should have.
No, that's what I'm saying. When you try to put it on a tripartite prism in terms of finding fault, and that's what we do in criminology. Because you may want to try and where did the problem start and how has it been handled? The woman has a share. The gentleman has, and also the deceased. But these are the things we say on a daily. They are things that are avoidable. One of the biggest causes, by the way, of criminality, and I'm talking about now felonies, murders, suicides, cold-blood criminal acts, is love or intimacy.
You call them crimes of passion.
One could say that. One of the biggest. Out of 10 offenses you find that are felonies, there's a relationship to love. You people take some of these things lightly when they tell women. And we have talked about this time and again, because it's something that is not there, it is indirect, no one will take it quite serious. When you're married, truly and honestly, what do you want from someone else?
We cannot put blame on
I'm not blaming, I'm just asking. But it's the cause. That's why this man died. You know, as I've told you, when you're doing litigation or law practicing and what, sometimes you need to work backward. It's the only way you may get to the point of the truth. Now look what has happened. Someone has died, other people are going to be sentenced for murder and kidnapping. But it is because of who? Maybe one person. And for her, she's at home sitting. There's a dead body, the people are going to be sentenced. So we need to think about these things. The second bit is the children. Time and again, and I think even Robert, you hosted someone this week, is it?
Yes.
Who did talk about our children now at home. These abductions are going to increase. That's a matter of fact. And one of the reasons why they are going to increase is because of the hard financial times. The times are terribly hard, that people are tempted to do anything to survive. As it is said that we are in a man-eat-man situation. And the forms of eating man, no one is going to come and bite your hand, but someone is going to come and abduct your child. This season is one unique one because of the challenges people face on a daily, socially, economically, just to mention but a few. So it is a big, big, big duty to protect jealously the children at home. Jealously. If your child is not in your, like you can't see them for a few minutes, please be worried. Please be worried. This business of sending kids from far places from home, please don't. There are people whose job is just to stand there and make sure they abduct your child to make money. Our house helps. How have you prepared them for this season? For some of you who have fences, who do you open for? Do you know these people? And now we have a big problem of the service providers. Now thieves camouflage as service providers like National Water, Umeme, I don't know what else. Habaka Sasir, I think. Rubbish, normally. These are people who normally come into our gates. So that's a big challenge. You need to orient the people we leave home in terms of how handling these people. Who comes? If you don't have, even if it is Zaia, Umeme and water, you don't have to open for them as a must. You can leave those instructions. If it's a matter of life and death, you can leave those instructions. I like the fact that now National Water is sending messages than even delivering receipts. Now messages come on your phone about your bill and what and all these things. So you know you deal with yourself. They only come probably there when they have to disconnect or something like that. Nowadays, we even still have women coming to people's homes. Because, I mean, we all have yaka. So let's just orient the people at home well. Because most of us don't spend time at home. But the people who spend time with our children, with our family members. So safety is key in this season. As we talk about abductions, abductions are real. Most times, statistics have it that out of 10 abductions, at least 4 of them will turn fatal. Someone will die, and that's the evidence. Like what happened, one of the what you read previously. Remember, someone abducts you for purposes of money, but because they don't know, some people have medical challenges, some people feeding. Now, what if people don't get the money in time?
Yes, I mean.
So the best way to do this is to avoid any sort of abduction by being as vigilant as possible. Very vigilant. And for me, my deepest of the same goes to parents. Please be vigilant.
Well, that is well put, and of course we continue to emphasize on the vigilancy part, because we do know that also as parents, like Felix put it, you have the first responsibility to make sure that your child is safe. But also, Robert, we know that police, one of the, I think the core mandate is to keep law and order, but also we're now looking at police being able to prevent some of these abductions. And now we are asking, are there operations that police has been doing to ensure that at least when such things happen, they can easily get into the bottom of it very fast? But also, while you're at it, the community engagement in this part, how can we stop these abductions? How can we work with police, or even having more effort from police to ensure that probably they don't happen in the first place?
Well, thank you, Mollen. First, we must understand that abductions or kidnaps in this country come and go. You'll notice that most of crimes have a partner, if you've noticed. That one time you'll hear panga-wielding men, the next time you'll hear bar hitmen, then the other time you'll hear kidnaps for ransom. So there is always a time when some crime will break out in society. But security get to organize themselves and see how to eliminate that crime. Remember when child sacrifice was so on an increase in Uganda here? Kids were being kidnapped, then the bodies found with missing body parts about 7 years back. Today, that has totally reduced. Actually, today it has now gone into ransom. Police, the native doctors did what they could do. Now, we had a time when also now people were being kidnapped because on areas of business, going bad business deals. The time when government went out, you remember the Susan Magara and all that, installed security cameras and all that. Now, what is happening today? One, this is a crime of passion, that it is out of love. And we've seen many people do that. Hussein Godi is serving a sentence for him. He shot Rehema, who has a girlfriend, because he suspected that there's an affair happening. She was cheating. We have the famous Matthew Kirabo and Desire Mirembe case, where this doctor murdered the girlfriend. So crimes of passion often happen, and they happen in any society. However, our concern is how do we reduce or prevent them? Rightly said, police has fundamental duties of protecting life and property, detecting and preventing crime, and so we should have these crimes prevented. But like I said, crimes of passion, and I've given you those examples, happen. Now, when you look at one of the things that one would say, how can we, society, then as police? First, one would say it was late, but good enough, culprits were arrested. Both the man who was put out of action for kidnapping the children, but also these suspects that were arrested, they confessed. They took police even where they buried the body, and the body was able, and police was able to exhume the body. So that shows that they were able to get the culprits, connect them on the scene of crime, and now we wait to see what prosecution will have to do with that. So we want to say lives were lost, but good enough, we know that the culprits were gotten, though the others put out of action. Now first, personal responsibility. Felix talked about casting blame. There was a man, there was a woman, but personal responsibility. What is the life you're living? Because most of the times, away for kidnap of ransom, that someone wants money. But even for ransom, there is parenthood responsibility or even child responsibility. That you don't put yourself in harm's way. We have so many people that live a reckless life, that are not very conscious of the things they do, how they behave, and how they spend. So, are you responsible enough? You're your first line of security. That as I'm trying to say, me, I can return home anytime. You get it? Am I being responsible at such a time when we hear maybe this crime could be now springing up? 2, community responsibility. Are you having neighborhood watch? Are you very alert with what is happening in your society? Because most of these things, as a journalist in my times of reporting, one thing I discovered, for every crime that happens, I don't know my brother from the legal fraternity, but for every crime that happens, there was someone who witnesses and who has the story and the true story. Be it an accident, there's someone who was watching. Be it theft, you hear someone telling you, I passed those guys, and they were dressed like this. I said, in this bag, whatever was to the moon, I continued. There's someone who will tell you, we saw this person being kidnapped, but we thought maybe, security, you get it? That we've begun living this I don't care. In Uganda, there's what they say, zirinda borange, you know? That someone looks at something and they're just not bothered. Community, forgetting that today it may be somebody else. Tomorrow it may be you or your relatives. So we need to go back to be concerned. This laissez-faire way we are living as Ugandans. You find someone's child, what has happened? But the child is crying. It seems someone is taking this child by force, you know. You're like, you're rushing to protect your children. You get it? So, personal responsibility, alertness, vigilance from the community, and being concerned. Yes, we know times are hard, people are in a hurry, people are in a rush, but if we don't go back to say we need a crime-free society and we get bothered with even things we've said no longer disturb us, then to police or security agencies, I pray I'm not misquoted or misunderstood. I think we also have weaknesses when it comes to now abductions in this country. I remember this very year, about a month or 2 back, there was some, were they Asians who yes, I think they're Asians, in broad daylight. These guys were in a car, another car came, people armed. Only we heard later security coming up and saying we don't know these people. You remember that, Felix? They robbed them of money, then they let the other one go. Now, this issue of arrests that are happening today are also confusing society, because it is becoming common for people to be somewhere and a drone can come, pick someone, and take them. People in plain clothes, that you may not be bothered today if you're somewhere and you see a car coming, someone is wrapped up, put in the car, they drive off. You say, well, their relatives will go to police. Maybe they will be told, special investigations, or he's somewhere, or he's somewhere. So, this arrest of not identifying, because the way it's done, the identification, they grab, is also making the public now fail to raise alarms. You just, you know? So, criminals.
Are you saying that some of these drones are actually legal? Are they the official way that forces are using to get people, or maybe for their security purposes? Because even some people would argue that criminals use the same kind of drones to get people. How are communities able to differentiate between whether this is an official operation by police or security forces, or these are just criminals abducting people?
I love the question you've asked, Mollen. It is so good. How are the communities going to be able to differentiate that this is security or these are criminals? The answer is right now they can't. Because the modus operandi that these security groups are using, many times there won't be identification. You see a car, most of these Toyota Hiace, commonly known as a drone, they park, they have taken the person. So, when criminals, if they were, I said earlier that in my journalism profession, while covering stories, and I was specifically covering crime, I noticed that for every crime, there's someone who witnessed. When this man was being kidnapped, abducted, there are people that witnessed. If there's camera footage, and you go back and you talk to these people, they'll tell you, you get it? Because now communities are getting used. And now we are seeing thugs using the same method. I gave you a very good example that is on record. In broad daylight, guys came, stories all over social media, and the police said we didn't know them. And true, they were thugs because after they let other Asians run, then the other one who had money was taken. At a certain point, they robbed him of money. But the same methodology that we've seen on camera, the exact techniques were being used. So I don't know how this can be improved. But it's creating a fertile ground that today, even if Mollen we are together and we saw this happening, we would just say, anyway, they'll follow up with police. I think it was necessary, maybe. I'm not an expert in security, but it must be revisited and seen how better it can be done. Either when they come, they introduce themselves, but maybe the people they want to arrest could run away. I don't know the better way of doing it because I'm not an expert in that. But what I'm saying, it is also contributing. You know, when people lose hope, when people can't differentiate that this is what is happening. If I'm a journalist, I go to a place, I have my jacket on. Oh no, this is a person from UPC. And a person who I'm speaking now to a journalist. And most of the times also, what is funny, people may be in plain clothes. Plain clothes, just... So, I think that is something that we must revise, not to create a fertile ground for these abductions to be happening in our country. I hope I'm not quoted out of context. Well,
we will not quote you out of context, considering the fact that you also said it yourself. It's very hard for a layman or, a normal person to differentiate what is happening. But what is factual is that these abductions are going on, and we are witnessing, some of them. And it's, of course, going to be a two-way thing. Communities have to be involved, but also police. And Felix, we want to look at a way forward. Possible solutions, because we cannot keep talking about the problem, yet there are things that can be done, both on the side of government, but also on the communities. What would be your suggestion to that?
Well, of course, starting with definitely people who hold the power, and these are the people who do the investigations, who have the machinery to avoid, detect, and prevent some of these crimes from happening. We still have a lacuna in our laws regarding telecommunication or declaration of information. It's something that I think we need to look into because most of these people use phones. They use phones to communicate, to contact, to lie, to lure people, do some of these traps. So we need to look at that. How can we use these as channels of investigations far more to aver these crimes, not for post-mortem, but to aver. This has been a big challenge. What's the role of the telecommunications department or whatever in these investigations? Do they have a role? So it's something we need to build. That can we use them in real time? As someone is calling and saying, "Gundi ali wano mulabye, we need to, to say mumukwate." Like, can we use real time? How can we intertwine telecommunication with our police forces? We need to have either clearance from court, because you remember you have these telecommunication companies have a code of confidentiality with the clientele. But what happens in times of risk, in times of threat, in times of, how do we waiver that? Because thereafter, the aftermath, it is good, of course, to know the victims, who did it, but if we can use it to save life, why can't we? I think there's a lacuna there that Uganda Police Force or Uganda, the UPDF or the government or the intelligence, I think they call it ISO, whatever, they have to find a way of closing that gap with the telecommunication companies for purposes of to avert crime or offenses. Secondly, the police leaves a lot desired in terms of rectifying its relationship with communities. That one I'll say again and again. It all starts with the existing rapport. What is the relationship between our Uganda Police Force and the Wananchi? So they call them. Do they have a relationship? Is it a sour relationship? Or do the Wananchi have confidence in these people? Can someone pick up a phone and say, "I am here in Katoke, I'm seeing a car, a drone, the number plate is this, I've screenshot"? Do we have that?
Some
Or
people
the
will
next
fear
time
that
when you
they
do
will
that,
be part, if they
they'll
do that,
pick
they
you
will be
up.
part, you could be taken as a suspect, and that is the fear.
Trust. Now, once you don't build confidence, let me tell you, look at the numbers. In a community, there could be about 10 police officers in a full community. But do you know how many people are in that community? It could be over 50,000 people. Now, it means the community is a bigger police. In some communities, by the way, people don't even need police. They do the policing themselves. And they will ask you, someone will ask you, Gwani, ngale tukumanyi kuno. We have grown up in, someone asks you, they will say, we are trying to find out. I had to calling you. Hey, why? Mollen, four people come and ask you, who are you? Now, what I'm trying to say is that communities are better police officers than, but it matters a lot with the relationship we are building. The police, Uganda Police Force, has a lot to do with this relationship, and this must be done in the smallest things. One, how do they relate with the Wananchi? When the Wananchi come to police, how does police react? Are they being friendly? Are they being harsh? Are they only focusing on the little small monies? We need to close that gap. We need to rebuild the trust. And I think for me, this is the biggest reason why crime increases. The failure to construct trust. That gap is widening day by day. And it is only because, one, police, I think one of the things that we shall advise police is to, maybe in these training sessions, to put a PR session. How do you relate with the public? In as much as you are an officer, you have command, you have the guns, but how do you relate with the Wananchi? The people, by the way, he said it, the people have the information, trust me, as I've told you time and again, the thieves, they don't stay far from you. There's someone. And Robert, as he said it, there's someone who knows these people, their background. You go to those LC1, the chairman, the committees, they know. But because you think they are rubbish, when you come to you know, all these kind of things. So going forward, we need to strengthen community engagement. But lastly, the LCs have a big role that has been demeaned by whosoever. I don't want to be particular, but I think they need to be empowered much more. They're the ones who accept people who move on villages. They're the ones who should know the number of people in your home. They have a right. They need to know why, even when you bring new people in the area, people, they call themselves brokers. When they bring people, the first person they take you to.
Yes.
So I think we need to empower the local councils very much. It's important in the process of averting crime.
Then Mollen, in less than a minute, one of the things I want to urge our members of parliament and government, we should revise the law that looks into unfaithfulness in marriage or cheating.
Yes.
Recently, police spokesperson Fred Nanga came out, I think you saw that on social media, that now if you find your wife sleeping with another man, then you have to take a week or plus. That thing didn't augur well in communities. So now a man or a woman may think, anyway, what crime am I going to charge them? What does the law say? So this also may force people to commit crimes of passion, crime-minded people to look at criminality first. Because if someone is told, when your wife cheats with another man and they sleep maybe not for a week, you saw that trending.
Yeah, and I think we do have one person here who's also talking to the same, saying that why shouldn't the law enforcement agencies first explain to the lawbreaker the reason for them being arrested? Maybe that would be the core reason of why some of these things are coming up. And they got police arresting someone who's just stealing the person, but identifying impersonation between abductors and law enforcers. Those are some of the things that are coming through. But I think the main message here is be vigilant, be security conscious, and make sure that you can also help police in identifying some of these crimes to make sure that we keep safety around our communities, but also within the country. Well, we'll be coming back for the dailies, and of course after that we'll also be taking you through traffic and weather updates, after which we'll be going into Good Morning Uganda agenda. For right now, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back.
Paying for groceries the old way.
3, 4, yeah.
Allow me.
Paying for groceries with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to conveniently pay for goods and services. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
That's my wife.
Season is here and it's Christmas in 4G from Airtel. Get the most affordable 4G smartphone in Uganda, now heavily discounted from 250,000 shillings to 150,000 shillings only. Yes! 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones this holiday season.
Dial *175*94# to activate free 1 GB instantly and 100% double data on all weekly and monthly bundles for 3 months. Get one today while stock lasts from the nearest Airtel shop. The Smartphone Network. This is Good Morning Uganda.
A look into today's papers. We're starting off with the New Vision, where we're looking at a story on Nabanja Amongi disagree on Byarugava's NSSF contract. That is a detailed story on page 7 of the New Vision for this morning. But also a big headline right there, government to redeploy 7,600 teachers. Now schools directed to send lists of the redundant staff. That is a story on page 4. And of course also giving you more on 17 people have been killed as UPDF battles ADF rebels in Toroko, and of course giving you a picture of some of the residents in Bweramuri sub-county who managed to flee with their livestock after the rebels attacked the villages. That was yesterday morning. Now that is also a detailed story on page 3. But taking you to more stories, new cities, leaders decry late release of funds. That is a story on page 9. And Namuganza speaks out on the censure. That is detailed on page 8. In electricity, government cuts connection costs. That is on page 5 of the New Vision. Now crossing over to the second page, a quote on camera right there, the Archbishop of Kampala Archdiocese, Paul Semogere, accompanied by his private secretary right there. That was during a function while cake cutting. And also more to that, they give you government targets 1 million youth in agriculture by 2030. And of course, what Lumumba is talking about that, reading between the lines, that is also detailed right there for you. Today in history, MP's OK Uganda Airlines sale, that was back in 1999. And also same date back in 1999, Turabi calls for resistance. That and more to catch out in the New Vision.
Well, in the Daily Monitor, we'll be looking at armed across borders attack leaves 19 dead. The UPDF Mountain Division Operations Shuja Commander, Major General D. Kolum, says Army killed 17 rebels, captured 13, recovered 15 weapons of different makes, while 1 civilian was killed and 2 injured. Now, of course, they give you a picture of people here, locals who fled the ADF attack at Karugutu Trading Center in Toroko District. HIV Pastor Sempa denies stigmatization. Power Blues switch off coffee factory and road to be named after Aweri. Now blunders that endanger your home and restore security in the country. Archbishop Semogere, his message there. But of course here in the archives we see Colonel Francis Nyangweso, who did inspect the captured weapons from Tanzania. That was in 1972. And today in history, Lutaya dies at Insambia Hospital and USSR expelled from the League of Nations.
And crossing over onto the New Vision Sports, it is an African show, the World Cup paper, but also shedding more light on today's biggest game, that is between France and Morocco. Well, insights on what could really happen, expert opinion, but also the battle between Babato with Hakimi and Dembele right there. And of course, weighing in onto where the support is. Rising stars in France, also right there for you. They give you a list. And of course, who is supporting who? Brazil's Ronaldo backing France to win it. A lot of more players choosing sides already. Now that much more to catch out in the New Vision Sports.
Now, of course, in the Monitor, Sports Brazilians fans pay tribute to King Pele as Brazil qualifies for quarter-finals now. Bonu rising to stardom, and inside the champs inspires Les Blues to brink of history. Kenyan food products on Qatari shelves, and real French test for giant killer Morocco. Still intact at the top after trial leading slip, and Eastern Uganda joins Crane's Kirabo. Now Uganda starts off well in Melbourne, that is in the streaming competitions, and Corporate League best gets award there for those who did come out to participate.
Now the Daily Nation as well, right there, big headline, fees shocker for varsity students. That is more to look out in today's Daily Nation, but also more is NAT6 new pay deal, delegates conference to discuss the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement. That is a story on page 2 of the Daily Nation. And also in the Daily Nation, Morocco carry Africa's hopes in today's semi-finals. That is also a lot to cover when it comes to Africa hailing for Morocco and hoping for that win. More stories also coming up with that. And of course, we will be having a live game here on UBC. That is for the game between Morocco and France, one that we can look to have. Uhuru to leave Jubilee, Azimio retired president to focus on regional peace efforts. That is a story on page 6 of the Daily Nation. But also, Felix, well, today, I think you already chose a side, talking about France, but Africa's hopes, talking about Africa's hopes being put in Morocco, I don't know what that is going to look like.
Well, we can't wait to see how the games will be pulled off. I know for a fact both teams are good. I love the fact that Morocco, as I said earlier, it's consistent, and it has been able to pull off a couple of what we call, it has been manned. It has manned the game. You see that you can't get them less on any of the games they have played. And today when they come to face France, actually, I'll be honest, France is less of a threat to Morocco. Because of how they have been playing. I think Morocco has been more consistent from the first game they played than France. So unless France this time comes all out to maintain the risks of pedigree, that's when they will. But they don't come. It's not going to be any easy for them. In as much as I support France, I don't think it's going to be any easy for them. That's what I know for a fact. Yeah.
Well, they also have the confidence of being the champions, the reigning champions. So that confidence is
and they
good
have
enough
come
to take. Yeah, they have. And well, we just have a few hours to find out. I think by the end of today, we'll know who is in the finals. Well, also want to take you through traffic, and we'll be getting onto the road, see which ones are actually better in terms of traffic for this morning. We'll be starting off from areas that are joining the northern bypass, but also crossing over into town, looking at the roundabout towards Mulago. Also, that is starting from the roundabout on Kalere. That looks like there is a little bit of clear traffic if you're coming from Chebando side. That area looks to be clear in terms of traffic, but as you join the Kalere roundabout, there's a little bit of traffic just as you're coming from the other side of the northern bypass as you're joining into heading for Mulago, but also a little bit of traffic just in the roundabout, but that is also just a short distance, so that clears right away. And of course the main northern bypass is quite clear in terms of traffic. Now, as you heading into town, Kalere roundabout, there is a little bit of traffic. If you're heading into town, that is looking at the Gayaza road, the Gayaza Kampala road. There's a bit of traffic, but also that goes up to the side of Mawanda road. As you join Mawanda road, that traffic clears away, and the rest of the area looks to be clear until you join into Mulago roundabout. But also getting back onto following the Kampala northern bypass, we're getting into the Waise roundabout. It looks like there is a little bit of traffic building up as you join the roundabout, that is across Waise, but also for the cars using the main Kampala northern bypass, that is a clear route, both people coming towards Jinja and also those leaving for Masaka Road. That looks to be clear traffic. But also if you are just leaving that roundabout using Sapolo Kagwa Road, there is traffic there, so that is one to look out for. Right from the roundabout until you reach the other side of Makere, there is actually quite enough traffic right there. If you can avoid it, that will be one to avoid. But also it does get clear off just after the Mugazi road, that right there. It looks like Sapolo Kagwa Road also does clear off, and more of that traffic comes in as you join the roundabouts towards Nakulabi there, but that is also just for a short distance. But coming back, we're looking at that road that now joins in from Mulago roundabout, and also one in Wandegear right there. There's a little bit of traffic that is for the roundabout right there as you join in Kalere, and looking at the Bombo Road right there, there is much traffic also for Bombo Road just after the roundabout, but that does clear actually as you move further, joining into the Kampala Road, Bombo Road as well. It looks like it's clear traffic, but we'll look more onto that roundabout that also joins into Binaisa Road, and that is one that has a little bit of heavy traffic. That is if you're coming into town. Now those leaving town using Binaisa Road, that is one to use for this morning, but if you are coming to town, also that roundabout looking at New Mulago, that area is a little bit filled with traffic, and it goes all the way, by the way, as you get into town, also joining Ginger Road to the upper side. That could be one to avoid for this morning. The traffic does go on until you reach that Mulago roundabout or Killer Road. That is one to look out for. Now from Mulago roundabout, if you're using Yusufule Road, that is one to use for this morning. It does have clear traffic, both if you're coming to town, also if you're leaving town towards that area. Yusufule Road seems to be quite clear, but looking at that roundabout joining into the Haji Musa Kasule Road, that also looks to be quite clear for those joining town and also those leaving town. That is clear traffic. But we want to follow up on Yusufule Road and also looking into how it heads into town. It looks like it's quite a clear route, and you can use that to get onto the Kampala Jinja Highway as well. That is still in green lines, looking at quite some clear traffic for you right there. But then again, as you head more towards town, towards the Kampala Jinja Highway, there's a little bit of traffic building up, but just for a small distance right there, and that does clear actually as you cross over. That is around Golf Course right there. The traffic starts to build up for areas for people leaving town, but also that takes in the other downer road, that is John Babiha Road, which has a little bit of traffic as you join the main Yusufule Road. But those leaving, it looks like it is quite some clear traffic. Now if you're leaving Kololo side towards John Babiha Road, it looks like that also has a little bit of traffic as you join Yusufule, but the rest of the road seems to be clear, and that will get you quite in green lines. That is clear traffic as you head towards the Kampala Jinja Highway. And of course that will mean that then you join the traffic, which looks to be quite there when it comes to Jinja Road. If you're heading into town, that is also in orange lines, meaning that there is a little bit of traffic right there. But again, you can avoid that if you take some of the detour a little bit inside, leaving Yusufule Road. Well, also away from that, we did start off with quite some rain, so also that contributed to the traffic building up. But we also want to take a look at the weather situation over the country for right now, and it looks like we still have that rainy system that is still over the islands of Lake Victoria. That is the same system that did bring us some rains right from late night into early morning. That is still over areas of Kampala, a few showers still in the area, and also looking at the islands of Lake Victoria. Kalangala already had those rains, but looks like that system is still there, bringing more rainy weather across that area. We're also looking at mostly the central part of Lake Victoria Basin. That is where we have those dark blue colors, and of course the clouds moving in. That is a rainy system that we're talking about, and that extends all the way towards areas of Mukono, Wakiso, also having a little bit of cloudy weather, but it looks like that will be developing into rainy conditions later as the morning progresses. Now we're also starting off with quite a cloudy weather that is across parts of the central area where we're seeing the white colors. That explains the cloudy weather, and most likely that will also be bringing in rains for most areas within central. That takes in the western part of Lake Victoria Basin. That is where we have areas of Masaka already having cloudy weather, but you have that system that is actually headed your way, so meaning that that could be bringing rains over there anytime as we speak. Also areas of Mubende starting off with quite some cloudy conditions that might develop into rains. We're also looking at midwestern Uganda already having cloudy weather that is Hoima areas of Masindi, and also that crosses over into the northwestern part of the country. Looks like it's a westward movement, so meaning that most areas within western Uganda might also be benefiting from those developing clouds, hopefully bringing in rains as the morning progresses. Otherwise, it is quite a sunny morning for areas within northern Uganda. We're looking at Gulu right there, Padel starting off with quite some sunny weather, and of course that is indicative of the dark grey colors right there. That indicates a sunny morning for most areas. We're looking at Kotido, Moroto, the Karamoja region as well, starting off with quite a sunny morning that extends up to Mount Islands. That is where we do have areas of Mbale. That is where we do have areas of Buyende. Also looking like we do have some sunny intervals starting off for that area, but also much more of that will be developing into rainy conditions as the day progresses. Now later in the afternoon, we do expect to still have rains, especially for the southern sector, and that means that we'll see a pickup of wet weather activities for areas within southwestern Uganda, areas of Kabale as well. You can look out for most of those. But also following up on what has been happening, especially with regard to some of the meetings that have been going on, especially the COP15 conference, talking about a way forward in terms of biodiversity, in terms of conserving the environment. We do see that now it is yielding actually fruits, because we also do know that countries have agreed to set aside their differences, but also I think the main word here is have a global goal and maintaining the target that has been set right from Paris Agreement, but also what did come out recently within areas of COP27, and also some of the commitments that have been done by some of these countries that have actually had more engagement, especially when it comes to the energy sector. Now we do know that a lot, the U.S. Department of Energy yesterday did agree to commit a lot of money, that is about $3.7 billion to finance projects to remove planet warming carbon dioxide. Now that is one to also look out for, but also more to target is the agriculture sector. They're saying that the target is set for 2050, and we could be looking at more beneficial things coming from that target. Now, this is a project that has been in pipeline for most countries. The U.S. has been at the forefront of that, but I think the main initiative was also for the U.S. saying, the Joe Biden administration actually coming up to say that they have more initiatives towards this, and which is why we're seeing them now committing such a huge sum to make sure that they remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. How and all those statistics are yet to be availed, as this announcement was made yesterday. But also with regard to the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit that is ongoing in Washington, we do know that the President of Uganda is also among the leaders that have been taking part in this leadership summit. And one of the key issues that are being talked about is also how to curb climate change. Now, this is a summit that has brought together a lot of countries, and of course now they're talking about among other issues, a wide range sector of tackling the core challenges of Africa, but also having more funding come from some of these developed leaders, especially when it comes to climate action. Now we do know that this could be one step towards realizing our goals as African nations, especially with keeping in mind that we are most vulnerable to climate change. But if we can engage some of these leaders, especially the fact that they are the ones making the decision, it could be easy for us to also have a global connection towards taking our part in climate action, and that is one that we're also hopeful will bring in more good news. And of course, as we talk about a way forward, Uganda could benefit from that, seeing as the president is over there, and of course most of those issues that will be discussed or commitments that can be made would benefit the country at large. Well, that is it for our weather updates for this morning. Do stick around. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Later than that, we'll also be taking you through sports, and after which we'll be taking you through Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda. Pick of the day on UBC. Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
I'm Head of Sales and Marketing at your public broadcaster. And I just want to send this message out to you. Christmas season has come, and Christmas is the celebration of the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. And it is not just a single day like any other birthday that you may probably celebrate, where we just sing happy birthday and then that's about it. Jesus' birth is very special, and that causes this particular celebration. It's about 90 days, if you like. Normally from the 1st of November up to beginning of maybe January or something similar of the next year, we are in that celebrative mode. So it is the biggest human kind of season or event where every activity is beehive, so to speak, in the sense that trade, commerce, and everything else is really exchanging. People disposal, people go to mingle with. It's time to celebrate, it is time to reflect, it is time to commit to memory who we are, and it is time really to settle down with family and the loved one. So this year's Christmas is going to be different. This year's Christmas is going to be different in the sense that the last 3 Christmases we were in lockdown. So it was difficult and a different time altogether. But this time we are going to mix, we are going to mingle, we are going to celebrate, we are going to enjoy with our loved one. But most importantly, as we do reflect, it is time for us to return thanks to the Lord for having seen us through, because God saw us through 2022, 2021, and 2020. These were very difficult time. We did not have the opportunity to celebrate it the way we are going to celebrate it this time round. So as a result of that, we need to sit down, celebrate, and I just want to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas 2022, a prosperous 2023, and you know that your God is on duty. So let's come back 2023 when we are fully charged and ready to serve in every area of your service that you have been created to give service to humanity. Let's do precisely that. Otherwise, I just want to say Merry Christmas again and have a fantastic season, of course, as always.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this
our land truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
At exactly 3 minutes past the top of the hour, which is 8 a.m. Thank you so much for being with us here on UBC TV. We really appreciate, but just a reminder, we are here from 6:30 every weekday, so make it a date with us. You kickstart your day. We have so much in stock every weekday, from light jokes that spice up your morning to very informative information that you need that is happening globally and locally. So when you watch this show, one thing you're rest assured is you're well versed with whatever is happening. You can fit into any meaningful typical discussion because you made a wide decision to kickstart your day with us. Now, welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Here what we do, we have a guest in studios. We discuss issues of national concern, both local, regional, and continental or globally. So this morning, Ambassador, the President, that's the chapter President, Milton Kambura, with whom you're going to be discussing the ongoing, that is, U.S. Africa Leaders Summit that began yesterday in the United States of America. And this is the second because also former president, actually it is Barack Obama held one during his time. I don't remember Trump doing so, but now we are seeing also President Joe Biden hosting, and our very own president, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, on invitation by the President of the Republic, by the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, is attending this. Now, this is a 3-day summit, and so much is going to be discussed. With my guest, we want to find out what is there for Africa. When we see countries with huge GDP, when we see superpowers sitting and debating with Africa, are we just called to participate? Do we have, is it of any meaning to us? Or we are attending because we're invited, and it's all about diplomacy there and being in good brotherhood. Of course, to many people, we had so many who were saying, this can't happen, but well, it has happened. Someone can't travel there, this and that, but that is something we will, on a lighter note, discuss later. Milton, you're most welcome.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you so much, sir.
How have you been? Some long time?
Yeah, we have been handling many global issues, very busy with reimagining and transforming education on the continent, but also our diplomatic effort to strengthen relations between and among nations, but also religions, communities, but also youth engagement and also civil society organizations to find a way of deepening democracy, human rights, and peace.
Now, you seem to be everywhere and involved in everything. What does global peace do?
Basically, the work we do
is it a non-government organization? Is it a government body? Because you're in, we here in peace missions in one way or the other. You're pushing for talks, then you're talking about education. You seem to be doing so much. Now, what is your mandate?
Well, our mandate is actually, we are an international global organization that is promoting and deepening what we call an innovative values-based approach to peace building, education transformation, but more importantly, education transformation. Our works, therefore, is to work with different governments and set up systems to be able to pursue transformation of the world. Our offices are in 50 countries, but right now we are very strategically working towards the South and North Korea integration. You are aware about that, and we worked closely with the Trump's administration, and the current president is coming on board to strengthen the reunification of the Korean people. But also Africa, we are in 17 nations. With several chapters, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, quite many, South Africa, we quite in Asia, you know, a lot of them. We are organizing the Global Peace Leadership Conference, don't forget, in India, and we are praying that Prime Minister Modi hosts leaders all over the world, just like His Excellency Museveni did in 2018. That signed the Kampala Peace Declaration. But I'm amazed of President Biden in the United States now is hosting the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, which we were very closely working with him to find a way of how to deepen peaceful relationships amongst African nations. That is what we do. But environment, education, youth talent development, a lot of work. Media, we have a big network of journalists we are training all over the world to make sure they deepen truthfulness, transparency in the media sector. Yeah.
Now let's look at the summit. When we see our very own president in the United States for this U.S. Africa Leadership Summit, to begin with, can you throw more light to this summit? You know, because summits are summits. You know, we've had many of these, not particular the U.S. Africa, but we've had similar organizations. We've had leaders come together. We've had the Commonwealth heads of states meeting. We've had leaders, African leaders being invited. One time, the Russian president did invite them. You see, so for this particular summit, if you are privy to know, what is the intent of such a summit?
First and foremost, I first thank my international president, James Flynn from the United States, who has worked closely with the Biden administration to make sure that this particular summit is hosted very well and in conformity with the needs of Africa. President Obama, of course, worked with him in making sure the first summit was successful, and it produced. President Obama initiated the yearly program, and we made recommendations. I thank the U.S. Embassy in Kampala and in different parts of the continent that accepted our youth to go to the United States in the White House to be trained by Obama himself. This time, it is a special one because it is on 8 thematic areas. Just quickly, this particular one is number 1 on what we call eco-partnership, trade relations. We want, of course, America and the African nations to strengthen their good economic diplomacy. That's how we call it in our language. But then we must appreciate that our trade relations is now valued at $65 billion as it stands right now. With South Africa taking $21 to $23 billion, US and South Africa. We would like that to be strengthened. Of course, you must be aware that China's value with Africa, you know, trade relations is now at $252 billion. So you now know the context of why Biden is particularly very thirsty to have strong bilateral these economic ties with Africa. Of course, Africa has been the center of raw materials. You are aware, gold, diamonds, we are still as wealthy as 600 years ago. And our relations actually is beyond what we see right now. It dates back more than 600 years ago. Aware that the Africans built, several success stories in America today, we see today. So the next one is, of course, U.S. Africa relations in terms of deepening democracy and human rights. As of course you are aware, like Uganda, you know that the United States has been supporting Uganda at a rate of, I can say, more than 800 something million dollars here in Uganda. That's just the U.S. as a government. So deepening democracy. And the second one is, of course, climate change. The discussion is very hot on climate change. Aware that now, right now, as we speak, for those who are watching this television debate, is that our future is in making sure we respond to the effects of climate change so that our sustainable future is guaranteed. We cannot trade, our security will not be safe. So if we do not talk about a collective resolve on climate change, what is the role of the West? Is to finance the damage they have caused on the environment. But also Africa to take lead in terms of opening doors for recycling economy, planting trees, making sure the freshwater sources we have are kept safe. So that is now the negotiation. It is all about win-win, win-win. But then on the part of Africa, I know for sure, this is their time now also to present to America and say, hey, I think it is now time to have what we call win-win partnership. We cannot have, for example, a global value of coffee trade all over the world, valued at $460 billion. And Africa is only enjoying around $2.7 billion. And when you come to Uganda, the farmer is actually being poorly paid, while the global West, and soon China joining, is enjoying the profits. And then the farmers are still using a hoe. Their children can't go to school. So that is how we want to negotiate with America and make sure that they also support our integration, economic integration as Africa. That's where the president yesterday made me very excited, the president of the Republic of Uganda. While he was presenting in the health summit, there's those what we call side meetings, side conferences. He mentioned it very well. Say, hey, our Dr. Gwang made the Covidex from locally available herbal trees, but America has failed to tap and approve such a medicine. While we made trends to even treat COVID-19 patients here, that has not become a global story. So I like such a kind of leaders, and there are very few. Others have gone just for a photo show, to the photo show that I was part of, and the majority of them, they have just gone for photos. So I believe the African Union will be able to take us into the negotiation also of our role in global peace, by making sure that through this debate, Africa can be allowed to be part of the United Nations Security Council as a permanent member.
Well, Milton, that said, of course, you're so optimistic that we stand to benefit as a country, more also as a continent, which is Africa, with this U.S. Africa Leadership Summit. Now, I want us to look at a number of issues. With the environment, yes, we had the COP, and we've seen the outcomes really saying, no, Western countries do more than lip service. Do African leaders, including our very own leader that is there, you use the word negotiation. Do we have capacity to negotiate with these countries, meaningful negotiations? Because when you look at our budgets, we, on a huge percentage, rely on them. He who pays the piper determines the tune. When you look at our economies are largely built on this. Even sometimes our military strength. We get donations here, we get trainings there. Many times, they have set the pace at which we run. So when we see such summits, where can we drive our faith and hope that what we are picking from these summits? I've seen our president, recently I saw Kenya's president, number of presidents on the, being a permanent member on the U.S. Security Council. They've cried out loud. Almost every opposition, I saw Paul Kagame, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Kenya's Ruto is the recent to step up and say we must as Africa. But do we really have the capacity to force that change?
The good thing your name is called Kirabo. It's a gift. When you ask such a question, you are resurrecting the founding fathers of Africa. The spirit is in your head right now. And I think you are asking the right question at the right time. An economy of more than 23 trillion US dollars, that's the America's GDP. Africa combined of 1.3 billion people cannot even reach even 20% of that economy. Combining all of us, 54 nations, all of us, everything, our GDP still is staggering at exactly around 1.9. We are trying to shoot 2 trillion, but it has failed all these years. And we are saying we are poor. And while we are poor, we are seated on gold, on diamonds, on timber, on fertile soil. Look at our climate. Water surface is fresh. Look at our fruits. Look at everything. Oh, Africa. Africa, wake up. Africa. The most important thing now is to have the right negotiators on the table so that Africa is not taken for granted. I liked the Secretary of Defense recently when he said it's now time to take Africa as a serious geopolitical partner, not just as a friend. Called 50, how many countries? 49 countries called to America, come. But who were stopped to go because African Union had already sanctioned them. Mali is one of them and others. Come, now they run very fast. The head boy has called us, the policeman of the world. Oh, Africa, wake up. How many times have we now hosted this in Africa and called all world heads of state in Africa, hosted by Africa? Oh, Africa. When they die. Oh, Africa. But when they die, no one comes to bury them here. That is the Africa that is ashamed, even when God has given you everything.
Now, with those lamentations, Milton, where do we get the strength?
The strength.
That this second of the kind can be either a turning point or we can see meaningful negotiations if there is room. Because I'm seeing committees sitting, maybe I would wait for the official thing to see Royal African presidents deliberating and giving presentations, not from the small committees, but where do you drive that strength? That this is not just going to be like the many.
Yes.
This is going to have tangible. This, you see, COP in one way made me really wonder that when we saw the COP26, this one that just, even the recent one that was in Egypt, you see, there's so much zeal, but African leaders and representatives move out lamenting. You see, we made recommendations which suggested, you know, there is no compelling force to the Western world to act otherwise.
Because you are very poor negotiators. So the way forward is when you civilians and citizens of Africa are voting, start voting those that can defend Africa's interests. 2 is that time has reached for us as Africa to negotiate with everyone out there that, hey, don't make us join your wars so that we become enemies to the world. 3 is that we must at this particular time know the priority demands of Africa. And 1 is for us to integrate. Whoever is not going to be against the integration of Africa is therefore an enemy of Africa's future. And thirdly is that we must have now shared currency, because they can no longer continue taking your gold as they build their reserves to base and make value of their dollar or other currencies against your poor shilling, when actually the dollar is supposed to be here in Africa to make sure that we have one African currency which can become the most valuable currency in the world.
Don't you think such a summit, I need your view, we are going back to the days of scramble for Africa, where we see that now China is greatly building strength in its economy and partnerships with African countries. Look around the African continent. Almost 85% of the countries, China's strength is visible in road construction. They're having so much loans from China, and maybe such closeness and desire for America to have Africa on board is for its economic benefits and global position in power and might, contrary to what we may think is all about improving trade, is all about improving relations, but rather more protecting and maintaining grip of Africa.
They are going to announce $55 billion investment for 3 years to be shared across African nations, to respond to health crises, to respond to, of course, climate change issues, to respond to peace and security efforts. 55 billion shillings, shared by 54 countries of Africa for 3 years. How much money is that?
Now you're speaking like a typical African.
Now, the issue is
whose interest has already run to, we are going to be getting money. How much money is that?
Corrupted mindset.
This is how even our forefathers were corrupted.
Exactly.
And were taken over.
Exactly.
When they saw the white man come under scramble for Africa. And these superpowers were saying, who takes which part? Who takes which part? How do you entice an African? They enticed them with weapons. How do you entice an African? And mirrors. Today, don't you think Africa again is being enticed with money's donations? At the end of the day, whatever is being given to us, that we think these are loans, these are grants, are holding us captive. Just yesterday, I saw the head of the Anglican Church. It was Sunday, where he came out and said, we should even leave this Canterbury thing. But he said, we must learn to be financially independent. Because if we want to, then we must have the financial muscles. Because we depend on these people. So this excitement, Milton, of money, they're going to give this money. At the end of the day, I'm seeing like now we are being divided again. Who offers what? At the end, and yet later on, much as we think we are jumping out of the hole, we are sinking. We are only stepping on sinking sand.
The whole discussion, let us say win-win. What does win-win mean?
Do you believe
it is on
at the bottom of your reasoning that there is a win-win situation
because
here?
Because it is on
that
paper.
Africa leaders can debate for?
As we speak today, each African country is presenting their own demands. Because before we say America is building its interests, is working toward strengthening their domestic security by making sure they support our security, so that terrorists do not turn Uganda into their base. You see now, Africans don't think like that. They don't think like that. For them, first of all, they are not united. For America to become the superpower of the world, they had to have a war, a good war for integration. What is that meaningful war Africa is in today that will help it become an independent and prosperous nation? America had to sacrifice to make sure the states become one nation under one president. What is Africa doing today so that they no longer call you as prefects 54 prefects, divided. And you cannot measure up. And that's why they disrespect us. That's why in our diplomatic engagements with the whole world, they say, no, you must vote like this. They even dictate. Why did you vote? Why did you abstain, first of all? Uganda abstained on the issue of Ukraine and Russia. There was a question, why? Why did you abstain? We are now on the issue of China and Taiwan. Africa is already being cornered. Please make sure the issues of China and Taiwan, don't mix yourself in that politics. But while you are here, when you are there voting, you don't know the voters now. We are talking to voters. Our future is in the hands of you people watching this television.
Well, let me first remind my viewer here that please, in case you want to be part of the topic of discussion, you're sending us a message on the number on your screen, which is a 0709602592. Please, let's have your name. I'll not be able to read any message without a name. Please send your message with a name. That is the only way we'll be able to read out. And we are still looking at the U.S. Africa Summit. How relevant is the summit? How relevant is the summit? And through this summit, can we see Africa's potential and opportunity? That is something very important. In this summit, are we going to see Africa's potentials and opportunities being achieved through this summit? Or is it merely, okay, welcome, this, that. The end of the day, we say it was held and that went down the books. So please, in case you have to send a message, I will gladly read that with a name. And thank you so much for being with us. That is the number on your screen. A text message or a WhatsApp message is something that I'll be glad, because feedback is really very important to us here at UBC. Yes, please continue.
I would like to really retaliate again. That the future of Africa depends on the quality of its citizens. What I mean is time has reached when the whole of 1.3 billion people, remember, India can enter Africa more than 8 times. So Africa is big than what you see even on the map of the world. Time has reached, as you consume Chinese products, or American products, or German products, time has reached for us to unite and industrialize. Produce products that can also be consumed by the Americans wherever they are, by the Chinese in China, by Turkish in Turkey. All of us, as we say, win-win dialogue. I mean, time has reached when an African must also win the World Cup. Time has reached when a Pope can also become an African. What I mean is that even our education, because we are talking about global education for all, we signed that several years ago. Why should Africa, invest in the weakest education of all? And the one funding it is actually the other man on the other side. And dictating for you to learn in a foreign language you do not understand. What I mean is...
all that you're saying, Milton.
Yes.
How then can this summit be a way of realizing that or of achieving that? Because we can continue saying Africa, the time has reached, this is the time. Like the youth always say, we are the leaders of
tomorrow.
Now they changed. We are the leaders of today, they are no longer for tomorrow. But you see, lamentation doesn't cause acts. You must position, doesn't bear fruits. You must position yourself. Someone once said opportunities come to those who are prepared already for them. Otherwise, they'll keep bypassing you. I believe Africa has had so many opportunities, but we've not positioned ourselves. And you're still being taken on a ride to enjoy. For example, well, back home it could benefit. For Russia, there are people who had all political rumors, all allegations, how even our president cannot step in the US. And you know, they were using this as talk and garnering support and all that. We had those who would say, we've now gone to this country that you're talking about, any time of this and that and all that. Yes, politically, this could be a good score. For to prove that we have good relationships. So anyone who thought maybe this could cause, but this is evidence too. But away from these minor achievements, the big dream of Africa.
now you are tickling the tail of the lion. What I mean here is, as I have always said, on that table, there must be a volcano of individuals without fear or favor, that the leaders you people have voted have no fear of an American president. That when they are seated in that White House, in the summit, they have the courage, like the courage I'm speaking with here, that a president of Africa is able to stand and say, Mr. President of America, time has reached for you as a nation of America to respect our cultural values. Full stop. Then everyone, the 54 presidents, say, yes, we are with him. Then they also roll out another motion and say, America's effort to support Africa's economic, political, and social integration. Then all 54 countries stand up and say, yes, that is a common voice we are here for. The moment we don't have that joint shared doctrine and principle, then it means you will speak something else. I have different demand. I even fight you and say, what you're asking, no, me, is not what I... Right now, like for example, on infrastructure, as you are aware, technology is one of our biggest bottlenecks in economic development. Railway transport, talk about technology, even computers. The computers we have here, even when they are producing, this one is for third world countries and Africa is number one. We don't have quality. And they have refused to do what we call technology transfer. Don't forget, during COVID-19, Transparency International gave a very good report condemning all coronavirus vaccine producers all over the world. They considered Africa at the last, because why? Because there is no justice in the whole world, politics and diplomacy. So what must be done is for you voters, the 1.3 billion people, to wake up peacefully and demand what belongs to you. And that, number one, is to make sure that we stop the export of raw materials. Why do we allow our nations not to have a law prohibiting and stopping export of gold, export of cotton, to make the clothes we are putting on, to make sure, so that America, because that's what they did to build America. These were very poor people, disorganized. They had even to go for a war. Stopping taxation on tea, stopping slave trade. They said, no, I think this, they had passed 100 and plus years to build America we see today. For Africa, the last 600 years, it has been a business of pulling each other down, going into elections that are stolen. So we have wrong leaders in offices. When it comes to human rights violation, number one. When it comes to understanding Pan-African values, here we talk on TV, but we are the ones actually dealing with criminals.
Well, some would say that even these challenges, the catalysts are the people that are inviting us today.
Of course, your enemy cannot give you techniques to help you stabilize. So it is upon us.
But they have intentions to keep Africa where it is.
Yes. You must be aware of that.
They can still get the minerals, they can still manipulate us.
Yes.
They dictate even political systems.
Of course. Is this democracy designed by Africans? Even what we are putting on, is this your Pan-African or African design? We had Baka cloth 400 years ago. Right now, if we had moved with the ancient technologies and science, common knowledge, 600 years right now, we would be the superpower of the world. We have
Let me give you some of the messages that are coming in. Thank you so much for the feedback. Really appreciate that. Morning, I'm called Nasa from Makiso. It's just U.S. versus Africa. They never do anything in others' favor, but theirs. So I see no good result out of it. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying the show. Well, good morning, Uganda. This is Paul Kaga. I want to appreciate Ambassador Milton for the consistent efforts in changing mindset of Africans. I personally feel we have to come back and love ourselves better, build around common African value systems, unite and position ourselves. But we need to get rid of greedy leaders. That is Paul. Then it doesn't matter if leaders, okay, this one talks about the element of democracy, and that is Edward. Thank you so much, because he says it doesn't matter if leaders don't want to live overstaying power. It hinders, as long as he talks about that these people are so much into what benefits them. And this summit could be aimed at just better position U.S. is on the global. Then, hi, Azizi from Lobowa. I can assure you, apart from Africa leaders traveling to the United States of America, there is nothing much they can get from U.S. because it is the U.S. just interested in strengthening its influence over the continent. The influence of China and Russia is gaining in Africa is the only fear for USA, but it's not interested in helping Africa. Then, good morning. What brings all about that is Africa is ununited. Hatma, love you very much. Well, thank you, Hatma. And I'll swiftly move through. Shafit, we are better than US and European countries. It's only our president here in Uganda who can speak out for Africa. But we have to enforce our youth to learn technology. There we will lead up this planet. Let's first look at those briefly.
You see, if you took a census, Kirabo, we are here with you. Whether you don't like what I say or whatever, or whether you are our brother from maybe Western countries, this is a disclaimer. If we took a census right now, a research that is independent, you realize that 1.3 billion people on the continent have started realizing that it has been an empty deal. An empty deal because now the young people realize that, oh, this has been a poor education system. That's why now they are rioting, demanding for an education system that works for them. Can you imagine? You study and become a doctor in Africa. But when you're in America, you cannot actually practice your medical degree. Can you imagine? And we're talking about global education for all. You cannot even manufacture anything. And remember, the funding that we receive from Western countries is actually dictated upon that invest this in education. And they tell you even that this is the curriculum. If you want to say, I want my children or my population to learn in their local language, they say, no, Britain is one of them. The colonial master takes the blame. Now, for Africa to unlock its potential, colleagues, my friends, my sisters, my brothers, do not expect to continue to depend on donations. Because we have everything. Actually, it's what they are using to develop themselves is actually coming from Africa. Who cast Africa? Who cast Africa is yourself. To think that someone else will take care of your problems. Who told you there must be someone that must be born in another country to take care of your mess? So I blame, first of all, these heads of state. Because of they are weak. They are weak. They are not, they don't know even why they are. God has given them those positions to help us. None of them is ready to die for Africa, to defend Africa, to stand. It is only a few that try to stand. And when they stand, looking back, you don't see your colleagues also saying we are with you. They terminate you. So it is risky business. When I'm on this TV, I am on a risky business. They can even kill me out of this studio on the road there. Because when you make Africans wake up, it simply means you want those Western countries to collapse. So for us, we are saying, as diplomats, time has come for Africans to unite. We don't want any more of these borders. Manyabusia border, Manyakasasiro. I want to use a plane from here to Abuja. Trade, free trade area. And that's why I liked Biden this time. Because he's ready, because he had promised it. That's why he got the votes of the black people, the black Americans in America. And that's why he won the elections. He promised us that indeed it is Africa's time to enjoy. And part of the agenda I saw, the Africa Free Trade Area. For me, I'm very happy now. To President Biden, my elder, I thank you, because if you can fulfill that alone in your term, in your first term, I would say America has had the best and the sweetest president. For allowing Uganda, Nigeria, Tanzania, to break barriers in trade, that alone. So the next move would now be, out of these presidents who are cowards, to open up now, to fear nobody, and launch an African currency, an African passport, an African transport system, railway from Cairo to Pretoria, from Nairobi to Abuja. Then we look at how Africa can become self-sustaining on medicine, health care. We don't want to this $70 billion. India is what is stealing from Africa. Can you imagine? 70 billion in treating you people, but all that money that you would use to manufacture your own drugs here is going to New Delhi. Can you imagine? Are we stupid? Can you imagine?
I love the passion. I love the energy that you're using to explain what Africa should do. And as we talk about this summit, I know you're an exposed person. Ever heard of the term the American dream?
It's not there. In Africa, it's not there. It's me who has written it in my book, The African Dream.
The American dream,
it's powerful.
One of the things that is there is to keep America a global power.
Yes.
And when you look at any American, born in America, grown up in America, no matter the challenges in America, they still believe America is the best place.
Yes.
An American knows, even that the moment they begin understanding and reasoning very well, they know they are a powerful people. They know they are there to dominate. Africa, over a time, we've lost self-esteem. We've lost love for our countries. We've lost love for our own people. An American is concerned, a death of one American can take the entire state's recognition.
Yes.
And mourning.
Yes.
In Africa, because of the continuous wars and all that, we've lost value for humanity. So, when we look at these challenges and the countries that invite us to merry-make, and so we are going to discuss issues
at our own cost. Can you imagine?
We are going to discuss issues of bilateral relationships. Even when we know that we are the weaklings here, as we wind up, do you think that really we can achieve what we are told with these invitations? That these are the reasons why we are going. We talked about this a 3-day event. There is environment, there is health, there is what I hate most is democracy. It's also one of the issues on the agenda. I must be very honest. When I hear democracy as defined by the African man, I mean by the white man for Africa, look at this mess we have here. You know? This is the same people saying do are the ones doing don't, and they're enjoying the drama in the theater. So, do these really carry any meaning?
Let me be positive. I am positive Africa has a good future, and what we have just considered saying here are just tantrums that show how we are disappointed. We have suffered colonialism, slavery. We are now in neocolonialism. We have suffered more than any other continent of the earth the damages of the Cold War. We are people who continue to suffer diseases that are manufactured not by our own nature, by those nations. Time has reached, colleagues, as we wind up. Those of you watching us from different embassies all over the world, our friends, our American friends, and everyone, the European, the Chinese, we are not enemies to anybody. Africa has never created any war. World War I, World War II. We have just been used as victims in all your wars. Now, as I conclude, I believe the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit 2022 is a wake-up call to leaders all over the world to really see Africa's position and guarantee it a space in the 21st century education, because without you opening for us that door, that small door, we will not have a productive population. 2, you want your own security. But what's Africa's security? Is it in democracy or human rights without fundamental systems that help it to be achieved? Without roads, without hospitals, without business, without good price of our goods and services to the world market. Therefore, the human rights issue will not be achieved. A poor population cannot achieve human rights and democracy. Poverty and all our problems rotate around you people. Can you imagine? Africans, several years ago, we were feeding the world. We were taking care of you, of the world, without interest. You remember one king from Ghana or Mali traveled to Middle East and donated. We are good at donating up to today. If we are going for Christmas, we will come back with a lot of food. Free, everything free. Now Africans wake up. Time has reached, because now we understand that even the diseases that take our money, we are manufactured in factories. So everything is being taken away from us. From us, the clothes. We can you imagine, we plant cotton for them to make our underwears. After giving them cotton, they make the clothes and we buy expensively. What I mean here is now time has arrived for everybody to become an entrepreneur, to become a producer, to become a manufacturer, so that you earn through selling. If you don't sell something, you don't eat. That is the philosophy that will turn Africa into a producer of goods and services globally consumed. Then it means stabilized economy, which will give us money to build economies for our nations, and now we can donate to the rest of the world.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Chapter President, Global Peace, that is Milton Kambura, for your time. Well, it is time for Africa to ensure and know that it is us to develop ourselves. Hope in somebody else to come and lead peace in Africa, build our economies, support what we rely on as African. That is long ago. If we still stick to that, then Africa, we may not see the desire of a continent economically empowered, military-wise empowered, and ready to debate equally with these superpowers. Have a lovely day. Ruben is here to take you through the world of sports. Good morning.